It has been 10,000 years, but it appears that once again, Warhammer 2 news is imminent. It's on the way, about to land on your front doorstep. A teaser was posted by Creative Assembly today, and as far back as I can remember, that means a trailer will follow shortly thereafter, usually the next morning. So next couple of days should be pretty exciting. But what does it all mean? Who will be the next Legendary Lord making waves for Total War? Well, if we take a look at the teaser itself, it says Hunters Wanted. Fancy a voyage beyond the borders of Reichland? Treasures and trophies await for all those that can track troublesome beasts in the jungle. Adventure for the fearless and soon-to-be wealthy. Sign up today. As many have already pointed out, this points very clearly to a long-awaited Empire update, and more specifically towards Markus Wulfhart, the Huntsmarshal of the Empire. If the Hunter tagline didn't give it away, the feathery cap certainly did, as did that half-obscured Empire logo you can clearly make out in the bottom left corner of the poster, which will probably be his faction symbol. And so it looks like the Empire might be headed to the New World. Now, the Huntsmarshal is a bit of a tragic character, born in a small village in the Drakewald Forest, and if Warhammer lore has taught us anything, it's that making your home in the Dragon's Wood is a very, very bad idea. Because it's not just beastmen bray herds that live there, but many of the most terrifying monsters of the old world. And sure enough, a bone grinder giant fee-fi-fo-fummed his way out of the darkness and ate everybody in the town, which did not sit very well with our hero, who vowed to make the beast pay and never again let such a tragedy befall yet another Empire town. Something well beyond his power to prevent in the Warhammer Fantasy Battle universe, but by Sigmar did he try. Went full Charles Bronson on that giant's ass, sliced up his hammy, blinded him in that cyclopean eyeball, then chopped its head off for good measure, and from then on, dedicated his life to hunting monsters. Manticores, Cygors, Gorgons, Cursed Ents, Mornghouls, Chaos Dragons, you name it, all have fallen to his blade or his bow. He got so good at it, even Big Dick Franz took notice, offering up a knighthood and some cushy real estate in the Reichland. But Markus Wulfhart is a hunter, salt of the earth and one with nature, not some posh nobleman snorting coke off brothel babes and getting fat in his mansion, so he politely declined the offer, and being the master diplomat that Franz is known for being, was offered up the amber bow instead, a weapon infused with the wind of Gur, the wind of beasts that would seek out its target's heart unbidden, much like the true flight arrows we see from the Wood Elves. He went on to forge a brotherhood of hunters with the sole purpose of eliminating monstrous threats before they could wreak havoc on the Empire's borders, a group called Wulfhart's Hunters, a unit we will almost certainly see as either a new Regiment of Renown or elite unit when this DLC drops sometime in September, and in the end times, he puts a barbed strangler right through Torok's the Brass Bull's throat, ending his rampage at the gates of Altdorf. So the dude's got a resume that would make many Lord characters jealous, frankly, and on the tabletop, he's only a hero. We'll almost certainly be getting up-jumped to Lord status here, and his role on the tabletop was that of, you guessed it, a monster hunter, as one might expect. From a gameplay perspective, expect to see him with a 180 to 200 range, armor-piercing bonus for his large bow, immune to psychology to prevent him from terror routing when getting near big scary monsters, and likely some kind of volley fire magic missile similar to Arrow of Karnas or the Moonbow of Lilith. Might end up seeing stalk and snipe on him as well, depending on how power creepy Creative Assembly wants to get, and if the previous DLCs are anything to go by, yeah, it would not surprise me in the slightest if he ends up being a better Legolas than even Alathanar himself. Hunters are, of course, a regular Empire unit we've not seen yet, likely Vanguard bowmen with stalk and bonus for large bows, and the Wulfhart's Hunter Elite will have immune to psych and higher bonus for large than their Hunter counterparts. Might be a great time to finally get around to seeing those missing knightly orders as well. Don't know how thematic that would be overall, but the Empire really aren't missing that much in terms of units. It's really the campaign side of things where they're quite lacking, so knightly orders really are the glaring omission when it comes to their unit roster. I'm frankly a little bit sad, honestly, that this does not appear to be a Cult of Ulrich overhaul, which in my opinion would be the most thematic and interesting update the Empire could have gotten, and it might mean we don't get to see Knights of the White Wolf, which would make me really sad, but I do expect to see at least a handful of the missing knightly orders make it in this DLC, just because they're such a glaring omission so far. Knights Panther are a prime example. They were playable on the tabletop, albeit not really different than in regular Empire Knights, but definitely one of those ones that you can give a unique niche to. That would be pretty cool to see in Total War Warhammer. And maybe a Celestial Hurricanum thrown in there for good measure. That's a big war machine that we've not seen in action yet. What I'm really excited for, though, is the heavy-handed hinting at cross-game Lord packs, something we've been debating and discussing for well over a year now, and it appears it might just finally be happening. When you take a look at the teaser, yes, any Game 2 race is a possibility to line up across from the Empire. And yes, even Game 1 races are a possibility, if not a probability. But as I've stated many times before, one of the best ways to entice people into buying Game 2 is to pit those two games against each other, so that there's meaningful Game 1 content making its way into Warhammer 2. I do not think Wulfhart is going to be a free LC. That is not how CA handled these teasers in the past. I can't think of a single time, actually, they've ever had content like this drop for the free content before actually teasing the DLC itself. Obviously, you want to market the thing you're selling before you worry about the free LC stuff that everyone's getting anyway. It's clearly, from what we've seen so far, setting Wulfhart up against someone or something. The question is who or what? And the line about jungles in that teaser immediately screams Lizardmen to me. Now, I'm not gonna lie, there is one large factor here that might prevent it from being a Lizardmen Lord pack, and that's the fact that we just got one with the Prophet and the Warlock not 5 months ago. It would be a little bit strange to do two Lizardmen DLCs back to back, but there's no other race in Warhammer 2 closely tied to the jungle except for Clan Pestilence, and we obviously already have all their lords and units. So if we're talking about hunting in the jungle, whether it be Lustria or the Southlands, that means Lizardmen. It certainly wouldn't be an iconic rivalry like Grom the Paunch and Eltharion the Grim. In fact, it sounds like it might be a relatively manufactured one, but Empire vs. Lizardmen sounds pretty awesome to me. Of the remaining lords and heroes, there is Chief Astromancer Teto Echo, Chakax the Eternity Warden, Oxyotl the Chameleon, Gor-Rok the Great White Lizard, and Nakai the Wanderer. Now, Markus Wulfhart is known for taking down big scary monsters, and of those 5, only 2 are, well, big scary monsters. The 2 albinos, Gor-Rok and Nakai. We've speculated about them many times before, and while Nakai is probably the most fitting simply from a thematics perspective, he's also not a very popular or well-known character. He doesn't have much lore, he doesn't typically lead armies into battle, and he isn't in modern army books. Far be it from me to say he shouldn't be in the game because of those facts. Honestly, I think he'd probably be the most hyped to see him out of all those characters, but he does have a lot working against him. And we know the importance of Itza as a start position and the first city of the Lizardmen. So I think CA will go for Gor-Rok here because he's a huge albino monster that would fit the theme of the DLC, and he's probably the most hotly anticipated of the characters that remain. I think Oxyotl, he that hunts unseen, offers more from a unique playstyle perspective, but visually nowhere near as intimidating or cool, and frankly, I don't think people want yet another skink lord added. I personally had enough skink-themed campaigns for now, but picking units for Gor-Rok is a little bit weird. I'm not sure what would come with him. We're missing Razordons, which seemed like a simple inclusion, but there's nothing that really fits an albino lizard theme, still remaining in their 8th edition army book. Skink Oracles and Troglodons would be fantastic additions. I've been yearning for a venom-spitting Spinosaur since Warhammer 2 was first announced, and I think it would fit a unique battlefield role compared to a Carnosaur, while looking incredibly awesome to boot. And I think a Troglodon would massively help sell a DLC like this one of those centerpiece units that really people would be very interested in seeing. So I expect to see it in the DLC, but these secondary race DLCs simply won't have the same kind of unifying theme that kind of marked the previous DLCs, like the Grim and the Grave or the King and the Warlord. These are probably pipe dreams, but it would be super cool for CA to dig into the Monstrous Arcanum again and bust out the Thunder Lizard or the Dread Saurian. They've used it before for War Mammoths, for Fimir, for Mornghouls, and even the Necrophytes Colossus from the Vampire Coast. So seeing either of those two dinosaurs, those behemoths, get added would be pretty special, if relatively unlikely. They would push product though. I mean, either one of those could sell a DLC by themselves, so I think slamming down at the end of a trailer and seeing those for the first time would send the hype into overdrive and people scrambling for their wallets, but to be fair, that's probably true of pretty much any dinosaur in the setting, Troglodon included. So my vote goes to the Troglodon here. It is 8th edition. It's got a unique battlefield role as a hit and run monster that spits poison from very far away, and just a really cool aesthetic as well. Spinosaurs are the bomb. If you've seen Jurassic Park, you know I'm kind of all about them. Pretty badass looking. I think it'll be the centerpiece unit come mid-September. Gor-Rok would start in Itza with a gold mine in the free-for-all madness that is South Central Lustria, cruising down the causeways in his 6'4" Ankylosaur. Lots of corruption, Skaven, and annoying Dark Elf pirate incursions to deal with, and lots of terrain features that make expansion very difficult. I love Lustria as a continent and in terms of the lore, but the gameplay itself there gets pretty tedious and pretty annoying for me very fast, so I don't think it'll be one of my favorite start positions, but Itza itself is a awesome city as the first city, and having a gold mine will make his economy pretty strong at the beginning of the campaign. What I don't know is, will this DLC and any other future cross-game Lord Pack also tie into the Vortex campaign itself? And I think this is a big question, because if it makes the Empire playable in Warhammer 2 without owning Warhammer 1, then that opens up some cans of worms while making a lot of other people really happy. It solves the DLC for DLC issue and opens up sales to a lot more people who don't necessarily own Game 1 or its additional content, but then it might piss off people who already own Game 2 and Game 1, already paid that DLC, and say, well, why did I buy those if I could have just gotten it for free later on the line, or bought a DLC only for Warhammer 2? You can see that that kind of crossover could kind of piss people off. So no matter what happens, someone's going to get upset. It's the internet. There's no getting around it. I'm curious how you all want CA to handle these Lord Packs and the whole DLC for DLC issue going forward. But because it's a Warhammer 2 content edition, my guess is that both Lords, whoever they are, will both end up playable in the Vortex campaign. Going to be very interesting to see how CA decides to handle that. There is, of course, the possibility that the second race won't be Lizardmen at all. That the jungle line is just kind of a red herring hinting at a specific location rather than a specific race, where another race, like the Dark Elves, or possibly even a Game 1 race like the Beastmen, are waiting to meet the Empire in the New World. And if that's the case, my vote 100% goes to the Beastmen, who are in the most dire need of an update of any race in the trilogy, in my humble opinion. Because unlike the Empire, unlike the Wood Elves, or the Greenskins, it's not just that their campaign mechanics have fallen way behind the rest of the pack, their unit roster is kind of a travesty compared to the other races of mortal empires. We've talked about it before, but they're missing some really important and thematic units and victims of the fact that they were the first launch after Warhammer 1's release. They need updating bad. They need an overhaul to their campaign mechanics. They need a fast-moving anti-large monster like the Gorgon that is immune to terror because they are so susceptible to that. They need a Doom Bull and Lord-level casters like Great Braid Shamans if they even want to be considered as part of the same echelon as the Dark Elves or the Skaven or other Game 2 races. But unlike the Empire, who were a base game race, the Beastmen were DLC. So the market for them is already going to be much smaller than any of the base game races from Game 1. And with the added DLC for DLC issues there, might mean CA avoids them entirely or saves them for free overhauls later down the line, maybe in Total War Warhammer 3. This forthcoming announcement has me really excited to pump some fresh blood back into the game. I think cross-game Lord Packs are an amazing idea if they're executed well, and in the future, if and when we see characters like Malice Darkblade, Greyseer Thankwall, Grom the Paunch, these will very likely be the vehicle through which they are delivered. We already know there are at least 2 more Lord Packs coming. Datamine files seem to show that there are at least 2 more after that. We could be getting 4 Lord Packs or more, and if each one of them pits a Game 1 and a Game 2 race against each other, then there are some crazy matchups, iconic characters, and epic units on the way. And it's going to be a really good time to be a Total War Warhammer fan. Check back tomorrow. If any big news drops, I will be covering it super early, and with any luck, it will be the next trailer for a Hunter and a Monster Lord Pack. See you guys soon.